Okay. Well, this is the first area gathering that we've had online, and it's one of a number of ideas that the Green Care Network is developing to try and help the network function perhaps more effectively. The idea is obviously on an area basis to get people together that may have common interests or issues or opportunities they want to discuss. In addition, we are developing the idea of a new, more open register of members, which will be shared with the membership. Basically, we'll be giving you the option of members to share your contact details and interests and other information that you think might be of interest to other members. And the other idea that we're going to be taking forward is of something called Padlet, which some of you may have come across, which is a sort of online notice board. We do have a members exchange at the moment, which enables members to post things that they're offering or things that they need help with. Hasn't worked wonderfully well, I think, possibly because of the way it's presented. So we're hoping that Padlet will be a bit more attractive and easier to negotiate. So today is really all about connecting and obviously exploring opportunities and ideas that are relevant to North Norfolk. Just a few more people to admit. And what I'd suggest we do is if we can go around briefly, introduce yourselves and basically say a little bit about yourself, any organisation that you're involved with, and also any topics or issues that you'd like to discuss today. I'll go around in order on the screen if that's okay. Madeline, you're first, I think. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi there. I'm Madeline Ashcroft. I'm on the Town Council at Sheringham, and we have a climate committee who are looking at all sorts of different things. We also have a coastline that we're very concerned about, and we are now looking at our green spaces. So we're sort of in the throes of wonderful things up in Sheringham, and hopefully being part of this will help to clarify what we need to do and how to do it.
Thank you, Madeline. I'm sure we'll have some interesting ideas and opportunities come up from some of the other members here today, I know. Chris, nice to see you.
Hi everybody, yeah, so I'm Chris, so I'm the Volunteer and Community Manager and I'm based at Felbrick Hall. I cover Felbrick and Sheringham Park. So again, I'm really here just to reach out. My role has changed slightly, so it involves the kind of community aspect of the work that we do, which is a very new venture. So I'm really keen to work with different community groups where we might be able to share expertise, support, or come up with new ideas really. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you very much. Diane.
Hi everybody, so I'm Diane Davis. I'm Treasurer for the Norfolk Green Care Network, but I'm also Treasurer and Trustee for the Papillon Project, which is a Norfolk-wide project where we help schools build their allotments for their staff and students. And we do have some schools in North Norfolk that we're working with. So I thought, well, I'll come along today and see what other people in North Norfolk are doing. So yeah. That's why I'm here. So yeah.
Thanks, Diane. Lovely. Thank you. David Garrett.
Yeah, so I'm from Garden Organic. We're a UK-wide charity, but a long history of working in Norfolk. Various projects in Norfolk, including most recently Brecon and West Norfolk, Growing Communities project in partnership with Family Action. Also done quite a lot of work in Norwich with Norwich City Council and work with Great Yarmouth Borough Council. I'll let David explain the compost programme. But we're here basically there's a lot of opportunities on the horizon. We've been talking a lot to Wells Community Hospital around partnership working and keen to explore ways in which we can support organisations to make best use of green spaces and use horticulture within that organisation.
Lovely. Thank you, David. Lucy?
Hi, yeah. So I'm just setting up. So I've got a small holding at home, and yeah, I'm really interested in using them for therapy animals. So yeah, it's all very new to me. Yeah, so I've visited a few people to get a few ideas of how they do things. and I've made contact with a charity that I used to work with personally called Time Norfolk. It's a baby loss charity. So yes, that's really good that I've got somebody to work with. But yeah, so I'm just setting up. So any ideas? I think my concerns really are about health and safety, about how to keep my clients safe when they're here, particularly around whether they use vet meds and disinfectants, and if so, how do we make sure they're safe. Yeah, so some of the paperwork side of stuff, because I'm aware that I've got a bit to do before I get started. So that's me. Thank you.
Thank you. Sounds fascinating.
I'm in North Walsham, Worstead. So yeah.
Right, lovely.
Thank
Sounds fascinating. Who's next? David Hawkyard.
Hello, yes, I'm also work for Garden Organic. I'm the Norfolk Master Composter Volunteer Coordinator. I'm based in Norwich and out of the waste management team at Norfolk County Council. So we have around about 60 to 80 volunteers dotted around the county that will come out and advise people on home composting and organisations on composting.
Lovely, thank you, David. Caroline.
Caroline Fernandez. I'm working with Norfolk and Waveney Mines. We've been doing climate cafes in North Norfolk where we talk about the climate crisis. We talk about our feelings and we're offering support around that. And we've had a course on that, and we're looking to carry on with some work in North Norfolk, so Haysborough, Wells, Sheringham, Cromer, around that. So we're putting in a bid for more funding for those activities with a bit more creativity as well. And a master composter, and our Norfolk and Waveney Mind are also working in Sheringham. Well, yeah, I think in Sheringham with Pace of Mind, which is walking and running groups, and other parts of Norfolk as well. But, yeah.
Thanks, Caroline. Busy woman as ever. Helen, over to you.
Hi, so I'm Helen Clark. I'm a community focus officer with the Children's Services Early Help. So we don't specifically do anything with green care, but we work with a lot of schools and young people. So our remit in terms of the Green Care Network is really to kind of share the projects that you guys are doing with potentially the audiences that you're trying to reach, and kind of link people in, or even bring projects to you that other people are looking to work on. So if they've got something they want to do, or if projects that we come up with might meet your remit to bring them to the Green Care Network from a children's services or young people perspective.
Lovely, thank you very much. And last but not least, Sarah.
Good afternoon. So my name is Sarah Peverday. I'm the Town Clerk of Sheringham Town Council. I've been a member of the Green Care Network with a variety of hats on for a period of time. So I'm really interested in seeing what ideas come up today for where Sheringham can get involved. We already have the Pace of Mind project working from Sheringham and a variety of other things that hopefully we can work with Caroline on moving forward.
Lovely, thank you very much. You may well have one or two other people joining us a bit later, and I'll just weave them in as we can. One of the things to think about, I think, today is whether you'd like in any way to follow up today's meeting. As I mentioned at the beginning, we've had a couple of other people who are very interested, I think, in connecting with other people and projects in North Norfolk, but couldn't make the meeting today. One idea, obviously, is to share email addresses as a follow-up to this today, and that's something you can think about whether you'd like to sign up to, perhaps before the end of the meeting. As I've said, we're recording this, so people will be able to see and hear the discussions that we're having. But there may be other things that you're thinking about in terms of ways that we can follow up around specific projects or ideas and so on. Perhaps by way of starting, if I could just say, is anyone, and if you want to put your hand up either on screen or in the icon at the bottom, just to speak, that'd be helpful. Is there anyone particularly who wants to come back on anything that they've heard other people say that they might want to respond to and develop and help with? I'm thinking about Sheringham. We've got two people from Sheringham here, and I know from having had a walk around the town with Sarah and colleagues a few months ago, it's an area where you're wanting to do quite a lot in terms of green space and the green agenda. Would either Sarah or Madeline like to say a little bit more about what you have in mind at the moment and perhaps the areas that
Yeah,
you can help
so
with?
if I share, Madeline, and you can pip in if I say anything wrong. We have budget set aside for a climate consultant. We have done, we had it in the last financial year, and unfortunately, just due to lots of other projects and things that needed to be done, we haven't pursued that, but we've moved that budget now into 2023, 2024. So that would be a budget for us to procure a climate consultant. We've got a reasonable budget set aside for that, and then for that climate consultant to come forward with at least 3 projects to be delivered in the in the 6-month period that they were with us, but also a plan for us moving forward. So we're still committed to that. We've got lots of spaces here that could be developed, but until you procure a climate consultant, it's difficult to know what part of the climate that person might be interested in, because it is such a broad brush area. We don't, just for information, we don't oversee anything that is from the prom forward. So there is no sort of sea and beach part of this. It is all green spaces. We oversee commons. We have an extension potentially to our cemetery that we're looking at, but we've got lots of verges and things that we look after too. So if anybody's got any ideas in that sphere, or if they'd like to approach us, I'd be very willing to hear from them.
Good, thank you. David Garrett, do you want to come in at all? I mean, I know, as you said before, and I know obviously from discussions we've had discussions in Wales when Sarah was working there particularly, but obviously since as well, about developing local food growing and other green projects. Maybe it would be helpful just to hear where you're at on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's certainly an aspiration to, so when working on a project called Growing Together, we're really keen to explore opportunities of hub sites around the county that are great examples of doing practical food growing, so opportunities for skill sharing, sort of hubs for people to go and visit and take part, so volunteers there, and Wells being one of those, a community hospital. But then we're interested in sort of in taking that out, so the outreach element to that, so supporting those hub sites, but then also taking the messages out, sort of a hub and spoke approach, to reach wider communities. It's something that we did as part of the Growing Communities project in Brecland and West Norfolk. So some of you might have come across the Escape community allotment in Swaffham, and also the Discovery Garden in Kings Lynn. So both were hub sites, whereby, and we then trained a network of volunteers who we called Master Gardeners, who then took the messages and the learning from those hub sites to reach people that couldn't necessarily get to Swaffham. So it's social isolation, it's there's the therapeutic garden element, there's community pride, there's all sorts that ties into it. That's our aspiration. We want to do more of that around the county, and North Norfolk has been really highlighted, with Wells Community Hospital being a hub site there.
Yeah, thank you. I know we've made some progress on that, but I think we're looking, aren't we, at funding possibilities in order to sort of develop these projects a bit further.
Yeah, I mean, so a challenge has been I was talking to Nigel earlier, and I want to jump straight into a big lottery application, but they are very time consuming and very difficult to go through, and where we're struggling is capacity to undertake that. And so what we're looking for is sort of seed money to develop things, to sort of development money to sort of support an element of staff capacity to build that up, make the right connection, make the right case and evidence base to enable a big application.
Yeah. Helen, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just wondered, is that for the growing project to like, is that to enable like more people to access like allotment type space? Is that, sorry, my internet connection's not great, so I just wanted to make sure I was hearing it properly.
Yeah, so food growing, and that is an element of people making best use of what they've got at home, but also then community spaces as well. So green spaces, community green spaces, making best use of them, enabling communities to, I mean, some communities, they might want bird boxes or more biodiversity. Others, it might be about having a couple of raised beds and growing food. So it's empowerment and communities making best use of those green spaces.
So in terms of a lottery grant, are you thinking one big pot of money that you could use across all of North Norfolk, like divvy it up wherever the need is?
Yeah, so there's two aspects. There's, as part of this, we've been looking at North Norfolk and Wales being a hub there, but also Greater Norwich as well, and working with a partner down there as well.
Okay, thank you.
The idea, I think, was to sort of use these as pilot projects that could then provide learning and you know, the basis for expansion, assuming that they, you know, seem to be successful, sort of thing. Yeah. Going back to specifically Sheringham, Sarah and Madeline, I mean, the money you've mentioned is for a consultant to come in and effectively advise you on what you might be doing, and the focus is climate change. Is that right? I mean, is it about biodiversity? Is it about food growing as well? Is it include?
I think the thing is, Nigel, we're open as
Yeah.
a council for the passion of the person that comes through the door. We have declared a climate emergency, but obviously, though, that's very broad, isn't it? It's a very broad brush. So I would say I can't really give you a specific answer, because for me, I'd like to put it out there for someone to come forward. And if they came forward and food growing was their, you know, their place of expertise, it would be silly of us not to move forward with it if they were the best candidate for that consultancy. What would you say, Madeline?
Yeah, I agree. And the thing is that a few years ago, a number of us wanted to set up a community garden at our site for our allotments, and that was we bumped into a wall of allotment holders who didn't want anybody community-wise to come and help. So that sort of went by the board. But I still see, I wonder if there's any room to sort of negotiate with people like that, allotment holders, so that we could sort of start up some garden prospect up there for people who perhaps can't do it all the time and don't want a large allotment. They just come in and help a bit. There must be some way that we could actually work with people on something like that. And I would like to see that develop, because a lot of people want to grow vegetables and so on, and have that, you know, well-being from being in the fresh air, but they can't afford, or they don't want, or they can't cope with a whole allotment or even a small allotment.
Yeah,
it would be nice to start something up across that board.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Which
very
is what we
interesting.
did at Wells, weren't it, Nigel? You know, if it's a shame I haven't got any pictures on my phone here, I don't think, of what we did at Wells, but
Yeah,
it was away from any allotments.
Exactly. Yeah, and I guess, I mean, what you both said, I think, is just underlines for me that, yeah, whilst, you know, climate change is the thing perhaps we're all very concerned about. I've used this phrase before, so apologies if you've heard it, but there are other shades of green. There is the biodiversity crisis. You know, we've lost so many species of animals and other creatures, which we need to try and recover. There is a food security crisis, so we need to encourage local food growing. There is potentially, you know, this is linked to climate change, obviously. You know, we need to perhaps manage our land in a way to prevent or manage flooding and drought. So, you know, these are all shades of green, if you like. And I mean, I'm encouraged what you say, Sarah, that maybe you and your councillors, Madeline, are open to perhaps a broader focus, if I put it that way, that could include several of those different strands.
Yeah, that'd be good. Especially if If we know there are people who help us with that, it would be absolutely super.
Yeah, Caroline, you've got a hand up.
I was just wondering, Sarah and Madeline, a couple of things. So is there a brief for this climate consultant, or is there something? Yeah. So is that something you can share with?
There's a loose brief. There is a brief. There is a document that's been put together, but with regards to the targeted areas that we wanted someone to focus on, we're open for someone coming to us with that concept. So we want someone to lead us, which is quite different, I think, for a town council. I think you'll agree, Madeline. We want someone to lead us rather than us to tell people where we want them to direct it. I think that's the thing, is we are keen to make a difference, but we don't have the expertise to be able to do so.
Yeah, and you're already in conversations with my colleagues, aren't you, Ruth and Paola? Yeah, is that about these projects or?
No,
No, that's something else.
Really separate. It's completely separate, and it's a separate budget pot of money.
Oh, okay. So yeah,
come and talk to us, Caroline.
Yeah. So, but you're in conversation with Nigel about this one, then?
Nigel came and saw us, and sorry if Sheringham's hijacking now, so mute me or just remove me from the meeting. Nigel came to see us because I'd worked with Nigel when I was working in Wells, and we put lots of things together, or pulled our chair up to the table at Wells and refused to leave. So then when I moved here to Sheringham, it was natural that I was in a better position probably here to be able to assist with bringing some things to life, or taking things to council that we thought would be beneficial. But as I say, we've had that climate consultant budget, and it is a considerable amount of money sitting on the table for last year, and we've rolled the budget over to this year. So I'd be keen, but I'm happy to be led if it's the right thing for us. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Can I suggest, Sarah, if you've got something on paper as a brief, or whatever it is, if you'd like us to share that, then let me have it, and we can send it round after today, and people can have a look at it and share it, etc., and maybe put people in touch with you. Just to come back to David, I mean, not put you on the spot particularly, David, but is that the sort of thing that Garden Organic perhaps could help with?
Which side, the consultancy,
the consultancy, yeah.
Possibly. I mean, when Sarah mentioned it first, discussed it first, I was thinking it might not be us because it might be broader, but we could certainly have a conversation about how elements of that, and actually there might be members of our team that are best placed and could give a broader view as well. Yeah.
Dare I say, Sarah, I mean, another possibility maybe that you could think about is, rather than have one lump, as it were, and one consultant, if you think about the sites that you've got a particular concern or interest in, thinking about how those might be used in the future. One of them is maybe the allotments that Madeline's talked about. Maybe Garden Organic could give you some consultancy advice around that site, and maybe you get someone else in to deal with perhaps the others. Just other thought on that.
No, you're right, Nigel, and I think that's the thing, is I'm open to any ideas from this group. I'm not the expert in that field. I'm merely the person with the chair at the table. So
yeah. Okay, well, that's very helpful and flexible, I think. Yeah,
thank you.
Okay, well, that's helpful. That's a good dose of time around Sheringham and the possibilities there, and possibly wider as well. Question, I mean, Lucy, you're in the startup situation, very much more at a local level there in North Walsham. Again, I'm thinking about sources of help and advice for you. Is that, I mean, obviously we've got David Hawkyard, who, I don't know whether you're into composting or whatever, whether you're aware of the master composters, but that's one source. But again, David, does Garden Organic provide some advice to individual plot holders and gardeners in the sort of way that Lucy is?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, we've got some volunteers up in North Norfolk that I'm sure would be absolutely happy to come along and give advice.
Yeah. So do you use you have people come to you to help out then as well?
The volunteers that we have are really kind of ambassadors for home composting. That's what they do. So they won't come along and turn your compost heap for you, but they'll come and tell you how to compost organic material in the best possible way, the most effective way.
Yeah. I mean, maybe like having Caroline on the call might help, because like just working with people that are in a mental ill health period of their lives, and I'm just very aware that I've got to be cautious. I think I've got to work with from what I pick up from speaking to people, I've got to work with an organisation. So because I'm not a counsellor, I'm just providing a safe place for people to come and spend time and hopefully heal. But so I thought it's imperative that I work with an organisation. So I mean, it might be worth me having a chat with Caroline a bit later or something.
That's a good idea for me. Yeah. So okay, Caroline, perhaps again share emails.
Thank you.
As follow-up, and you can make that connection. Is there any other sort of help that you're looking for, Lucy? I've got your hand, Diane. I'll come to you in a minute.
I mean, it was just really about the health and safety, really, because I should be doing activities with them, because I initially thought I would just do like a one-to-one session with the animals, but then having done a lot of research, I think they'd get a benefit from spending the whole day with me, and we can do all sorts of things. We can do the like animal walking and cuddling, but then also the husbandry, because I weigh my animals and things, and do all the health checks, and then we can do the mucking out, and and then lots of other things. Just sitting with the animals would be nice, or taking photographs. So there's like loads of things we could do. And I do an agility course with my goats, so I can do that with people that come round as well. So but I think just because it's going to be very practical, I think my biggest concern at the moment is how do I keep my clients safe, and they're going to be vulnerable clients. So I thought it was probably good to start with a charity like Time Norfolk, because I mean, I've worked a little bit with people with learning difficulties, but not a lot, so maybe it would be good just to start not in that sector, but then I potentially could move on to that in the future.
Okay, Diane, you want to come in?
Well, Lucy did mention at the beginning that she needed a little bit of help with safeguarding, and obviously that's one thing we're really sort of onto in the Papillon project, because we work with children and safeguarding is really important. So I just wondered, I'd be very happy to chat to Lucy separately about how we go about safeguarding, and maybe how she might go about training herself and any staff that she works with. There's sort of points to look out for, really. So if that would be a help, I'd be very happy to do that.
Oh, thank you. That would be really helpful. Thank you.
Thanks, Diane. That is really good. Thank you. I see we've got Nige Stannett has joined us. Hi, Nige. We were talking earlier, and I know you've had another meeting that has held you up a bit. Do you want to briefly introduce yourself, and I can just briefly recap some of the things that we've talked about that may be of interest to you?
I'm Nige Stannett. I'm the Climate Change Project Officer for Norfolk District Council. Do lots of things: tree planting, carbon footprinting, trying to help communities with their carbon footprints and things as well. So lots and lots of things.
Good.
That'll do.
It may be of interest to you. We had a fairly lengthy discussion about Sheringham, and I think you're aware that that Sheringham Town Council got some funding for a consultancy project with a view to, I think, doing more with your green spaces, Sarah and Madeline, as a fair way of summarising it, in relation to climate change and other things like that. And I know we were talking earlier, and it may be just helpful if you could contribute something here. I mean, we're looking at obviously funding opportunities. I know North Norfolk District Council, like many, is perhaps financially stretched, but you do have, I think, some funds that might be helpful in developing specific projects in the area. Is that fair?
Yes. So there's the Sustainable Communities Fund, which you may know about already.
Sarah or Madeline are aware of that, are you? Yeah. No, Sarah's writing something down. There you go.
No, I'll stick the link in the chat. I can find it. But there's 2 levels to that. So there's up to £1,000 as sort of the smaller project side, and then up to £15,000. And that's for lots of reasons, really. Can be used for lots of things, capital as well as revenue things as well. I'll stick the link in the chat.
So I guess,
There you go.
thank you very much. I guess
In
what that, if I understand it correctly, Nige, is that you know, once the council locally have had some advice about, you know, what to do, etc., if then is funding is needed to develop new projects in green spaces and whatever, then that's a potential source of funding that they can tap into. Is there any restriction on town councils and others tapping into that?
No, only if, I think there's something about if you get funding from the council for other things, maybe, but right. I don't know. There is the prospectus, which I'll also add in the chat, and I'll let you read that at your leisure.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Do you want to come back on that at all, Sarah or Madeline, before we move on?
No, I think that's really, really helpful, because again, it gives us a bit more of a boost behind, particularly if we were to bring a consultant in, it would give us, is that a rolling fund, Nigel? I know it says about meeting 4 times a year, but presumably it's rolling. Yeah, there's no cut-off date.
No, I suppose the only thing I don't know is with whatever happens with the local elections, whether that has any impact on it. I'm not entirely sure, but there's I suppose that to think about.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Thank you though, that's really, really, really helpful.
Good. I see we've had someone else join us. Emma. Hello, Emma. Would you like to briefly introduce yourself, and if you've got any particular topics or issues you'd like to discuss today?
I'm so sorry. Please forgive me for having a clash and gate crashing halfway through. And I clicked the button, and then I thought, I'll see how many people are in there and whether I can join and not appear to be really rude. But yeah, so my name's Emma Ball at the moment. So I work in the Integrated Care Board. And at the moment, I'm the primary care vaccination lead for North Norfolk. But I sit within the North Norfolk locality team, the place team. So I was just interested to come along really and hear a chat about the discussions from a colleague and also a people and patient point of view. So sorry, thank you for welcoming me. Sorry to pop
That's
in right
fine.
in the middle
You're
of the
very
agenda.
welcome. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good. Other topics then, guys. Helen, you've got your hand up.
I was just interested, and I don't know if it's something that's being discussed anywhere else, but Nigel, while you were away, you put in your in the Facebook group all these beautiful pictures of play parks that had all these interactive water features. I was just a bit jealous, if I'm honest, of all these things that they had in other places. Do you think there's a potential possibility that could be something we could replicate? Obviously not quite the same, because they have this beautiful sunny climate that we don't quite have here. But I just thought those interactive green spaces where families can access and the communities kind of feel really welcomed and engaged. And there's just a draw to them, you know, like people want to go and play in these spaces because they're just so engaging. And I just wondered, yeah, we were spoilt by your pictures. It was just too intriguing.
I was spoilt by the visit, I have to say. For those who weren't aware, I've just been to Australia for about 4 or 5 weeks, and with family, and as Helen has said, dragging along 5 and 18-month-year-old, 5-year-old, 19-month-year-old to these wonderful play parks in the outskirts of Melbourne. You've really hit on a passion of mine. I used to design play areas, and was particularly into what I call play landscapes, rather than what's often called the KFC approach to play areas, which is the kit fencing and what's the other one? Kit fencing and carpet approach, i.e. you buy all this wonderful metal equipment off, or plastic equipment off the web, and it's there and it's just your standard offer. What I try to do, and I've got a few examples around the county if anyone's interested in looking at them and finding out more, was using the landscape, modeling the landscape. You know, kids love running up and down hills, rolling down hills. They love jumping from log to log. They like all those sorts of picking up sticks and playing in the mud type activities that we don't tend to provide for in our play areas. So yeah, I'm with you 100%. I'd love to see more of that. One opportunity and channel, I don't know if you're aware of our First Nature program.
So my colleague is, so I do with you and she does First Nature, so we tag team.
Yeah, great. Well, for those that aren't aware, the network with partners is developing a campaign, an important word, called First Nature ! It's all about expanding nature connection opportunities for children and young people across Norfolk. As we all know, children and young people have been particularly hard hit by the pandemic and all the fallout that has come from that in terms of schoolwork and relationships and so on. So we're developing this campaign, which we're planning to launch on April the 22nd at an Earth Day event at Haveringland Church, which is my local church, about 7 miles north of Norwich. And that campaign is all about persuading people to create opportunities, particularly where there's poor access to things like open space, creating more opportunities for children and youngsters to engage with nature, and persuading them themselves, persuading children and young people about the importance of this. We've got some fantastic examples ready across the county, and we'll be highlighting those in the campaign and trying to persuade organisations, whether it's parish and town councils, district councils, private businesses, whatever, to try and improve provision. And I'm certainly very keen to, really pick up your point, Helen, that, we should be trying to develop more creative play spaces, which really do enable children to get the most, if you like, from playing in a play space rather than, the rather stale and formulaic approach that we've had in many places. So it's a rather long answer, but yeah, I'm with you 100%. Anyone else want to come in at this point in terms of any new topics or areas? Chris, I'm interested in the National Trust perspective here. I mean, we picked up on natural play, and I know from my involvement at Blickling as a volunteer that there's action being taken there, I think, to create natural play spaces within the parkland there. Is that something you're aware of and can comment on?
I can't comment directly at Felbrig, but I know we are really keen with the work that we do at Sheringham. So Rob, my colleague, is our children and young people lead. So he does a lot of work with schools, accessing kind of the woodland kind of den building area at Sheringham Park. He's gone to a lot of outreach events recently around careers engagement for young people and getting them kind of involved in the work that we do. So there's a lot of work there, and there's potential stuff like promoting some of our trails. We've kind of gone to ways where we're trying to move away from your kind of traditional Easter egg stuff to link it to nature a bit more, and getting people to kind of, with those activities, kind of using our landscapes and using our areas that we've got available to us to kind of use that the best to kind of get people engaged and connected to nature. So I'm keen to explore more ways, and also from my community side is just how we can engage more with different community groups coming and using our spaces. We've got wonderful walks and spaces for people to engage with, so I'm really keen to kind of see if there's any groups that are interested and how I can work with them to be able to do that. So whether that's looking at guided walks, themed walks around various things, there's different parts both at Sheringham and at Felbrig. So yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you. I mean, again, thinking ahead, we can, if everyone's happy, share email addresses by way of a follow-up email to you all, and leave you to make those connections, really, which is part of what today is about, I think. Any other topics that people want to pick up on, or areas of interest and need in North Norfolk? No, if not, I'd just like to mention then a couple of things that are coming up which may be of interest to you. We have, as you know, I think probably a series of online events, and this is, as I said earlier, the first example of an area focus. I'd be interested in your thoughts on whether you think it's a useful thing that we can take forward for other parts of the county. But we've got an online lunch and learn session coming up, recently arranged for the 6th of March, which is, I think, a week on Monday, For those of you that are involved in green care in some shape or form, it's focusing on what's called the Green Care Quality Mark, which is something that's been developed by an organisation called Social Farms and Gardens at national level. And as you can tell from the title, it's all about demonstrating, if you like, that those providing green care, therapeutic horticulture, care farming, whatever it might be, that they work to a certain minimum set of standards, if you like. We've got someone from Social Farms and Gardens coming along to talk about that. It's a relatively new development, but also two local projects, Carlin Kilpatrick from the Nurture Project just outside Fakenham, and Iris from the Clinks Care Farm down in South Norfolk / Waveney, to talk about their experience in applying for it and how they think it's an important development. And particularly thinking about the health angle here, and Emma may be interested in this, thinking about social prescribing and the development of that in coming years. I think this year is going to be a fantastic opportunity for developing and promoting green social prescribing in the county. At national level, there's something like, I think, 7 pilot projects that are due to report and show what they've been doing over the last couple of years. And I know there is a big push at national level in the NHS to build on, if you like, their experience and hopefully work with local partnerships. I'm certainly putting Norfolk forward as a possibility here to develop green social prescribing, you know, in more detail. And for those that you're not aware of it, it's basically an approach that says, rather than give a pill to someone because they have an illness, it's actually saying that getting people out and about, involved in a variety of different activities, whether it's connecting with nature, gardening or whatever, or a whole host of other things, can benefit their health, mental and physical. And it's becoming, I think, a much more important element, if you like, of what the health service is going to be about in the future. So that's something that's coming up as well. I will be publicising the details and links for this event on the 6th of March early next week. So if you're interested, I'm assuming you're all members of the network. If you aren't, then you can join us through our website. You can join us for that event as well, 12 till 1 on the 6th of March. The other things to mention briefly, I've mentioned already the event on the 22nd of April, which is Earth Day, international event. We have an Earth Day event at Haveringland Church, which is going to feature the launch of our First Nature campaign, but also a number of other things. And I've already had about a dozen expressions of interest from organisations who want to come along and put on displays or activities for families and children and a whole host of other things. So it's going to be quite an exciting day, I think. Again, more information will be provided in our newsletter and so on that. And the other big one, which Diane is very much involved with, is our Green Care Festival. Some of you may know we ran one of these on a sort of pilot basis last year, and I think it worked pretty well. We had a fantastic opening event at the Bishop's Garden in Norwich, and we're going to do another launch event on the 22nd of July, this time at the Plantation Garden in Norwich. Some of you may know that. It's a wonderful I think chalk quarry that's been turned into a fantastic ornamental garden. We'll have space there for a number of stalls. Space is a bit limited, but if your organisation would like to come along and put on display or whatever, then you'd be very welcome to apply to us. Diane's the person to apply to. And then after that, for a couple of weeks, we're hoping that you, if you're involved in various projects, will want to put on your own events all around the theme of green care. And again, we'll work with you to publicise and promote that so that hopefully you get good attendance and people will appreciate perhaps the work that you're doing if you're in a project and so on and so forth. That's, I think, all I want to say, really. What are your thoughts about today? Has it been at all useful? Is it something that you think we should repeat? And obviously also, are you happy for me to do a follow-up email to everyone who registered, sharing your emails, so sharing your contact details, and allowing you really to follow up some of the things we talked about today? What are your thoughts on all of that? Sorry, rather a long rambling question.
Should I start by saying yes, I think it's been very, very useful. I think as well that it's super that we come onto the Zoom meetings like this, because it saves a lot of getting there and getting back, and fuel and everything else. And of course that helps climate, doesn't it? So, you know, and so on and so forth. So I think it's given me certainly a lot to think about. I'm very interested in environment and so on, and what we can do for the future. So certainly I'm very pleased that I've been able to attend. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madeline. That's very helpful. I've seen lots of thumbs going up. Anyone want to say anything as opposed to just going that? No? Okay, fine.
Always very useful, and I think a locality approach, I think it's definitely worthwhile, and something to carry on. And it's, I think going forward, it'll also be really nice to feed in case studies and examples of where something's worked really well around North Norfolk. And
good thought.
Yeah,
good idea. Thank you, David. Yeah, Caroline.
Yeah, two thoughts. Yeah, really useful, and yeah, can share my email address. And so yeah, I'm interested to see if we can get any further with Garden Organic Mind, Sheringham Town Council, Green Care Network, something together. I don't know. Also, so that's one thing. And then Lucy, have you visited other care farms? Or I was just thinking of like the Bread Kitchen in Great Yarmouth. Have you know them?
No, I've not heard of them. I visited one in Woburn a couple of weeks ago, so that was really useful. And I've spoken to another lady on the phone. So yeah, and I went to your last presentation, which was really good because it had lots of different case studies on. Yeah.
Well, they're not, I don't know, they're not really a care farm, but they do have, they've just taken on animals, and they've got animal husbandry, but you'll find out more on this meeting that Nigel is organising on that Monday. I think that will be good.
Okay. Yeah.
But is there a reason why you're just not going to set yourself up as an organisation, but you might just work in partnership? Or
yeah, I mean, because it's very early days, and I have I work with Nigel actually at North Norfolk District Council, so you know, I've got another job somewhere else, so I've only got like Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays to do it. Yeah, and I thought, yeah, I don't quite know. I'm looking into the licensing, whether I'll need to actually set myself up as business yet, because I won't be charging at the moment. It'll, yeah, perhaps just be donations if anybody wants to give any. But yeah, I thought I would try and start a bit small, and then yeah, see sort of where it goes from there, really.
We wish you well.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Yeah, I mean, did you come along to the lunch and learn session around care farming that we held a few weeks ago?
Yeah, that was really useful. Yeah, I got a lot of ideas from that. Yeah, and I think that's probably what led me to think that actually I can do a lot more here. So it's just the things I take for granted, just like feeding the goats in the evening, you know, that is so joyful for somebody. Yeah, and it's a good distraction if somebody's going through a hard time. It's a really good distraction. And we live next to an arable field, so we're in the countryside, and it's a really relaxing space. So I think it would be really good to, yeah, it'll sort of be a waste not to do it, really. I feel like I'm at that point in my life, and the animals are really friendly.
It sounds like something that I need to go to.
Yeah, you're all welcome. Can be my guinea pigs.
Obviously, we talked today about follow up after today, and I think I'm reasonably, I think, satisfied that today has been useful. That I'll roll out similar opportunities for other parts of the county. Perhaps do, as we've done North Norfolk, we'll do East, West, South, and maybe Greater Norwich as a sort of focuses for that. But do you have any views at this stage about, would there be any value in coming back together as a North Norfolk forum at some point in the future? I don't know what your thoughts are about, you know, how far ahead, if that is attractive or not. Any views on that?
I think it would be useful for me because yeah, I can, when I start to get clients, then it might open doors. I was thinking about social prescribing, so it could be, you know, in a few months I might be ready to do that when I understand a little bit more what I'm, you know, a bit more about the safeguarding and things like that. So yeah.
Sarah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's very useful for us, particularly as a town council, to be able to come together with people like David and Caroline, Chris, Lucy as well. You know, we are muting ideas about putting livestock on our commons to manage them, but that is in a very, very, very early, even sort of embryo stage, I can only say. So I think it's really helpful, because if not, we just become insular and think about traffic, you know, street lights and cutting verges and fixing benches, which we're quite fixated on. So it's really helpful to speak to people who just have a really different day-to-day perspective to what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Agree.
Okay, that's helpful. I suppose looking ahead then, 3 months, 6 months time, what, any feeling, Lucy? You're on mute.
Sorry, thank you. Just in relation to what Sarah said, I used to be a conservation grazing officer at Norfolk Wildlife Trust. So if you do want to graze animals on the common, yeah, please do get in touch. I'll have lots of ideas.
We shall write you down, Lucy.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. Well, I think I've had some 3 fingers going up in a few places. So if that's the sort of frequency, then, you know, we'll perhaps timetable something in about 3 months' time, if that's okay, and see what response we get again.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're coming up to 1 o'clock, of course it is now. Yeah, it's our end time. Anything else anyone wants to say or pick up on before we depart?
Nigel, could I ask something, please? Or just
Yeah.
So say I work for the vaccination programme, but obviously in the North Norfolk locality. But a project that I've just been asked to have a look at is the North Norfolk Place Board for the Integrated Care System. Have asked us to look to with support for those living with dementia.
Right.
So that's why I've joined, really. So on the basis of obviously prevention and looking after your health and well-being can prevent dementia, but also dementia-friendly environments for those living in North Norfolk, for those living with dementia and their carers.
Yeah.
So we have already linked with, so obviously we've got our social prescribers that you've mentioned. So we've got a working group together and we've got social prescribers on that. We've also got our community connectors from North Norfolk District Council and the equivalent at Broadland, and our independent care coordinators as well, along with sort of clinicians. And we've got a couple of people on there with lived experience who are people living with dementia or their carers. But say it was just to plant a seed, really, as to how this group might be able to come up with some ideas, because they're very keen as a group to look at dementia specific organisations and activities, but also making other activities accessible for people living with dementia. So we've sort of got a split, really, of those that are keen to say, yeah, we need some dementia specific services where people with dementia can know that they can go along and get an advice and information, but also making sure that those living with dementia can access other opportunities that aren't specific or pigeonholing, if you like, into that you have to be someone living with dementia or a carer to access those. So any projects sort of moving forward where you think that patient group and their support network might be able to access would be really helpful.
Right. Well, obviously, again, we'll share emails at the end. I think everyone's in agreement for that, so people can contact you specifically if they've got
fabulous
thoughts on that. But it strikes me that, you know, that's the sort of idea David mentioned about case studies or topics. Perhaps, you know, we could actually have a short focus on the sort of area that you've talked about, Emma. You know, dementia-friendly environments and so on, and you know, a short presentation followed by some helpful exchanges and discussion, maybe.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, that sounds really interesting. There's a lot that we've done around dementia, but we would very much want to work with another organisation. So I'm looking at Caroline here again, but perhaps others around where we can add value on the horticultural. We've done a lot of engagement with dementia, with carers as well around the horticulture engagement, but very much I would want us to work to collaborate with others to support that.
Yeah.
And it's so important as well to think about the carers as well as the people with the dementia, isn't it? Because any sort of help that they get that is invaluable for them. Absolutely invaluable.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you all.
good. Caroline.
Just a quick question to David Garrett. You have been, you're in touch with my colleagues, aren't you? Because I'm not involved in the bid writing. It's Ruth and Paola. Are they in touch with you? I hope they are.
Yes. I have been in touch with Ruth and Paola. Yes, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Okay. Right, folks. Well, I think we'll call it a day there. Thank you very much indeed for your contributions and your time. I hope that's been useful. It's been a very interesting discussion, I think, and as I say, something which will roll out perhaps to other parts of the county over coming months, and we'll timetable in a repeat of this perhaps in about 3 months' time. So I'll stop recording and wish you a happy day, and send you around a follow-up email in the next few days. Thanks again. Have a good day.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Bye.
Nigel.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nigel. Bye.
Bye.